How would you like to walk up to your house and find a dumpster in the driveway and all your personal belongings are in the trash? Well, my guest today has had to endure the loss of her belongings, and along with that, the loss of that home, her primary residence, free of any and all encumbrances. There was something very wrong about this. Certainly, unjust authorities also remained silent about it, which is another problem. Strange indeed. So let's meet her and find out how and why the authorities disoriented the family, stole the house, and destroyed that family. Is that how we expect to find justice when we need it? I have with me AdelineSomello, who's lost her home, and there's a lot of situations that went on in her life, and we're going to try to talk about that, but first we need to hear a little bit of the background.
Okay, Chris, this horrific situation was precipitated by several events. Beginning in 2009, I was served a petition by an attorney to sell my primary home based on a approximate $3,000 false judgment. And this judgment had actually been the subject of a prior case which I represented myself from 1994 to 2006 as a pro se litigant. I brought the case to the steps of trial in 2006, and that false $3,000 judgment was subject and issue in that case.
So you had a case from way back then.
1994 to 2006 against this attorney who petitioned the sale of my house.
Okay.
I had a separate tort action. He had represented me in a matrimonial.
Okay.
I brought that case to the steps of trial in 2006, and I won. The decision, order, and judgment was ruled in my favor. There was no judgment ruled against this attorney, and that $3,000 false judgment was null and void. However, he used that to petition the court to sell my house. And when I received that petition, I moved into court. I prepared an order to show cause, and I moved into court, and the judge of the Supreme Court granted my order right on the spot. And in that order, he actually enjoined Suffolk County Sheriff from selling my home at 21 Woodbine Street in Quorum.
Yeah, so the house, the address of the property in question is 21 Woodbine Street, Quorum.
That's correct.
Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
In spite of that order, which enjoined the sheriff, immediately after...
Maybe we should say what enjoined means for the audience, because not everybody's going to know.
Enjoined means forbidden under mandatory command. So under no conditions was he to touch that house or sell that house.
So the order had like a dual effort, the dual purpose there? Is that right? You know, that the sheriff had to comply also.
It was directed at him.
Oh, so, okay, so then I don't know what enjoined means then.
It specifically said enjoining Suffolk County Sheriff from selling the home at 21 Woodbine Street.
Okay.
And in spite of that order, and immediately after the order, the sheriff signed off on a sheriff's levy using the same approximate $3,000 false judgment that had already been adjudicated and did not exist to begin with. Signed off as a sheriff's levy. And then in 2010, I received a notice of sale from the sheriff. This is regardless of the order that enjoined him from any sale. I received a notice of sale.
Could that have been an intimidation factor, you know, some kind?
I can't speculate what it was meant for, but I received it.
Sure.
And when I received that, I certainly did not appear at any purported sale, because it would have been a violation of the judge's order. The order specifically said there was no sale, and so anything that supported a sale was just as in contempt of an order, of that order. So I moved in, and then a real estate broker appeared at my house telling my son that he now owned my home, and he purchased my home at the sheriff's sale, purported sale. And when I heard that, I wasn't sure what or what not to believe. So I moved back into court with an order for contempt. My order was granted on the spot, so that if my deed was changed it was to be reversed back. If the title was changed, it was to be reversed back. If there was any sale of my house, it was to be set aside. And that order...
And you had no mortgage or anything? There was no... You were free and clear? They had no encumbrances?
The status of my home when this happened, my home was mortgage-free, foreclosure-free, lien and judgment-free, and always tax current.
So there's no reason for them.
So it was a cream puff.
Right.
It was ready to go.
Right.
And so, as I said, the order, I moved in for an order for contempt, which was granted in 2010. And as part of that order, there was an order of protection contained within that order that said that the home at 21 Woodbine Street, there's an order of protection on it as my primary and family residence.
It pretty much means that they can't or shouldn't be doing anything about that property, that's yours free and clear, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And not only that, but since the order of protection protects it as my primary and family residence, and I never sold my house, I never rented my house, I never surrendered possession of my house, so therefore that order stands. And the only person who has the right to change that is me as owner. So basically, those two orders, the first order that enjoined the sheriff, and the second order found contempt for anyone who changed my deed or title, anyone who tried to sell my house.
Makes sense to me, yeah.
And it was automatically reversed back to my name anyway, if anything was done by that second order. Regardless of that order, I received a notice to quit possession of my home by the real estate broker's attorney. She sent me a letter telling me that I had to quit possession of my home within 10 days.
This is amazing when you think about it.
Right. And then in 2011, I received a 72-hour notice of eviction. And no Supreme Court order, no writ of execution, just a letter from the sheriff. He actually attached, it was not attached. It was folded up with his letter, something from Landlord-Tenant Court, saying that LJ Equities has possession of my home. Nothing trumps Supreme Court. And they were trying to circumvent the orders. Now, those two orders had been brought to the county. They were reviewed by the county attorney.
Two Supreme Court orders.
Yes,
Yeah.
both of them.
Right.
They were reviewed by the county attorney. I had given him certified copies, which he had asked me for. They were brought to the clerk. The sheriff's deed was wiped out, and the house was mine, free and clear. So there was no reason for anyone to attempt to do any of the things that occurred at my home.
So at this point, there is an appearance of somebody in the home.
Well, on May 12, 2011,
It was illegal seizure.
the Suffolk County sheriff, by a whole team of deputies and a whole team of real estate brokers and their work team, had placed what appeared to be a 30-yard dumpster on my driveway, and it certainly appeared to be an exquisite plan. They not only evicted me from my home, but they gutted the structural contents of my home at the same time. And I stood there in front of, I believe he was the lieutenant. I held up the Supreme Court orders, and I told him that he was in violation of those orders, that he had no right to be on my property, that he was violating the orders. You totally ignored me. They went ahead. The deputies and the brokers were actually
They're
seen.
basically part of the police, so there was no immediate place to go at that point. There was no immediate place you can go besides holding up the orders to stop that from happening.
No.
Who were you going to call?
No.
Right? Yeah.
And nothing was needed. Those orders declared
Right, it
my
should have been
ownership.
enough, yeah.
That was it. That was a stop for anybody. They proceeded, just evicted everything out of my house. They gutted my house. The people, they were seen, the deputies and the brokers were actually seen by people laughing, hysterical laughing on my driveway, arm in arm, and taking photographs of each other while this was occurring. So this was a vicious act and planned.
Do you have photographs? They have? Who took the photographs?
Someone has a video
Okay.
of the lieutenant and me expressing the court orders and showing him court orders.
Okay, so so far, you reached the Attorney General, and there was no police. The police weren't able to respond, so the authorities have been held silent at this point. They're still holding that silent position, right?
I reported to the Attorney General. She referred me to the local authorities. I had an intake with the District Attorney's Office. I filed an addendum complaint. I asked for help to re-enter my home with witness protection. I received none. In fact, I received a letter from the District Attorney's Office saying, "We are unclear as to the nature of your complaint." So,
couldn't make it clear.
I don't know how much clearer it could be. But I filed a complaint with the police department. I asked them to investigate criminal trespass on my property. Somebody else's name had been put on my utilities, and I received no response. I actually went to the police commissioner prior to this occurrence, and I told him there was an impending illegal eviction by the sheriff. His letter to me was that he took the liberty of sending my letter to the sheriff himself, and no help. I went to the legislator. I had gone in the past to the congressman, not the present one. I filed letters with the governor. I went to the Department of Justice with a letter. I have not received 1 ounce of help from anyone.
Did you go to the FBI too? Did I get that right?
I called the FBI on the day that this was occurring, and I didn't receive any help.
So no one's really coming to your agency?
No one.
You need a witness to re-enter if you want. So you want protection in some way in order to do that.
What I want is to do what's called an open entry onto my property, and I need authoritative witness protection to be able to do that. I won't take a chance.
Sure, I don't blame you, yeah.
And in the meantime, I have found out that someone else's name was put on my property on the tentative assessment roll in the town in 2014 and 15. Someone else's name is listed on my property as owner. I've also been provided false bills from the town with a real estate broker's name on it instead of my name as owner on the property. But I recently have received documentation from the assessor in Brookhaven Town telling me that he made errors, including clerical errors and unlawful entry, and that he would be going before the Board of Assessment Review to correct those errors.
Would you like to know what they are?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I filed, Chris, I filed a FOIL application to the town and also to the county.
That's a
Freedom of Information
law.
I received no response with regard to the production of documents on my property, so I filed an appeal of that Freedom of Information law to the chief clerk of the town and also to the chief clerk of the county, and that's just recent. So I am now waiting for their response, the chief clerk's response to the FOIL application, to provide me certified copies of authentic documents on my property at 21 Woodbine Street.
Is there, have you thought about the possibility of a statute of limitations, that if they can keep this going and denying a long enough period of time, that there might be a limitation? I know you're a clear owner of that property. I can see you have all the documentation, the deed and everything else.
Well, there's been...
occupancy.
I haven't relented in my quest
Good.
to take ownership of my property.
Good.
And it's a matter of
And you should.
And it's a matter
After all, it's yours.
Exactly. And it's a matter of walking into my home. And I would have done it, except that I have a fear of if something illegal was done first, why wouldn't anybody do something illegal again? I might get arrested if I go on my own property.
Sure. Yeah.
There's someone constructed an illegal mailbox on my property, and which is not mine, because the day I left, I removed the mailbox. So, but also, Chris, there's been in concert repercussions from this whole activity. It just seemed such an orchestrated set of events.
Why don't you try to put some of that together for the audience to get an appeal on that, because I think it's pretty important to see that there's some apparent in concert management in this situation.
Yes, for example, with regard to the tax office, I sent numerous tax payments. I continued to make tax payments on my home, and they were refused and returned to me. And this happened numerous times. Again, there was an attempt to try to make me believe that somebody else owned my property and was paying my taxes.
How can you once believe that, knowing you already have the deed, you have that right, and
With the deed, with my current deed and the court orders, they're still making tremendous effort to make me believe that. The other, that's the tax office. The post office, the Quorum Post Office, has actually denied me services. They refused to renew my premium forwarding, which I had. They refused to renew my P.O. box. I paid a check by overnight mail. They refused my check. They locked my P.O. box, which I had several years. And the reason is because they wanted me to redo my application, take off 21 Woodbine Street as my home.
Because once you admit in any way, they
Yes.
have it on record that you're saying something else. Yeah.
Exactly. So I haven't had mail since March. They're sending my mail back. They're keeping my mail. They locked my P.O. box.
Isn't that, as they say, the post office is federal? Isn't that a federal offense?
Yes.
Wouldn't it go outside of the realm that you're in now?
Yes.
Okay.
I filed a complaint with the Postmaster General.
Okay, good. And that was how long ago?
April 1st.
Okay, it's fairly recent.
Yes,
Okay. Something should happen soon with that.
I would hope so.
think. Yeah.
I have a right to receive mail, and they have basically what they're doing. And I showed them. I showed the post office the court orders and my deed. That's all you have to show is for proof of this being your home. And they really have no business to know where I live or where I'm staying. Homeless people get P.O. boxes. So they have 21 Woodbine Street, and I showed them the court orders that this is my primary home, and I showed them my current deed. They refused to accept the documents. I had to actually mail them overnight mail, so they had no other choice but to accept them.
Because you have a record, somebody has to sign for it, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I sent them to the Quorum Post Office. I filed complaints with the district office, telling them what's going on in the post office. So I don't know, I can't say what's going on behind the scenes. I just know that I'm still locked out of my post office box because I refuse to remove 21 Woodbine Street as my primary home, and that is, to this date, my primary, permanent, and legal residence.
Right. That was your house before all this nonsense happened.
And it wasn't permitted to happen.
Is it fair for me to ask, or is it something you want to answer as to what do you believe is the cause of all this? Is it something you don't want to address right now, or
Well,
what's implied here? I see.
Oh.
I mean, if someone seeing this is going to hear the implying.
okay, there's a guttural disrespect for court orders. Nobody is giving any credence to the court orders. There's something drastically wrong with that, Chris. But there's a concerted effort for me to, for this house to be taken over based on that false $3,000 judgment. and everybody is in concert to help this happen.
That's right.
That's what
it appears to me.
Yes.
And I think anyone who sees this is going to probably say the same thing. It appears that there's a bigger corruption aspect to this.
So what I'm telling you, what my opinion is, that behind this is the tort action that I won in 2006. If that $3,000 judgment, which was issued in that tort action, okay, if that can be used and be made viable, you know, it was dead to begin with. It was adjudged against him in the tort action.
Right.
But if it can be made viable by the sale of my house based on this, then that undoes the tort action that I won.
Sure.
And represented for 12 years.
Right.
Completely, and also, if I agreed, because the attorney wanted me to pay him prior to petitioning the court, he came after me to pay him this $3,000, and I said, you were just found in breach of your contract, and you're prohibited from trying to collect money against a contract. So, and the sheriff used the sheriff's levy and depleted my checking account with it. He leveled.
This looks really, I mean, so convictable to that initial source.
This is prior to the petition petition to sell my house. My bank account, I only had $521 in the account because I had just paid bills. There was only that amount, but they leveled my account using a sheriff's levy to do that.
What was the content of the levy? Can you share that with us? It just has to say something on the levy. You just can't say we're levying and that's it.
Honestly, I don't have it with me, Chris. I don't want to say something that is not.
Yeah, okay, want to protect yourself. Well, we got about 2 minutes left, and I just ran through every possibility. You've answered basically all my questions. Is there anything you'd like to finish up with in this remaining 2 minutes that might help you in getting your property? Or getting your property back?
Well, what I'm asking for is the first thing the authorities must see to, that court orders are respected, that these 2 court orders were issued by Supreme Court judges. They have to be obeyed. There's no choice here. This is not a matter of what I want. This is a matter of what the court decided. And they have to be obeyed. And when they are obeyed, I will receive authoritative help to re-enter my home. It's as simple as that.
So that seems to be a reasonable approach that you're taking. Do you have any concerns that this is going to continue for any length of time if you are successful, and in any way that could happen again, or something? I'm concerned about.
I have real concerns because the sheriff's levy. The clerk actually offered me, I didn't even ask for it, didn't know it was, she offered me a certified copy of the sheriff's levy. And so if it's filed, even though I was taken out of my house, it's still filed. So it could occur again and again and again. That's my fear. And this has gone on. I'm out of my house exactly 4 years on May 12th. Of 2015 is 4 years that I'm out of my house, have not been able to get help to get in.
Okay, one quick thing I wanted to ask you before we finish up is the family. You had a family that was in the house, right?
Yeah,
Can you tell me what happened there?
My youngest son.
We have enough time, go ahead.
My youngest son was still living in my home at the time this occurred.
How old was he at the time?
He was 27, I believe. And
thereabouts, yeah.
Yes, and he was a policeman. And the irony of this is that my 3 children were on the property helping to salvage my belongings. The irony of a young man being a policeman and watching this crime occur.
And he couldn't do anything about it.
No, he's NYPD and has to be respectful to his jurisdiction.
Even though that was his house?
Yep.
Is there any line that could be drawn there in terms of what he might have been able to do? Suggest turn them away? He had to allow them to enter the house and take things? He had to allow that? Am I hearing that right?
I was not home.
Yeah.
I was not home. They broke and entered and seized my home. And I just pulled up and saw this happening.
So at the time, he wasn't there? I thought you said he was there at the time. No?
When this occurred, they broke and entered. Nobody was in the house.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But they all came to help get, salvage my belongings.
Seems like this is such a reasonable request. I mean, all you really do is want your own house that you own, that you paid for, that you are free and clear of any encumbrances, and you should be entitled to it. I don't understand what could possibly happen. Unless you're going to add something else, I'm going to wrap up the... is there anything else you want to add?
I don't think so, Chris.
Okay.
I
just want your house back.
I want my house back.
And you should. Thank you very much, AdelineSomello. I appreciate that. Americans are
Thank
fast
you.
becoming victims of brain salad surgery. Political corruption, social perceptions, and media-driven narratives are rapidly carrying away our republic, our very understanding of what America is. Our nation, our government is disrupted and confused by a new social order, and things like this too. And we are losing our common sense, making us vulnerable to strikes of deceit from within and outside of our borders. Our aim on FITTV is to supercharge Americans with education. Catch us on YouTube, search FITTV, and select my pick. And thank you very much for watching FITTV, and we'll see you again next week.
Properly inflating my tires burns less fuel and saves me money on gas. Yeah, I'm saving Mother Nature from pollution, but more importantly, she saved me $11. Ow!
Environmental defense. Get green.
By keeping my car regularly tuned, I save money on gas and repairs. That also means cleaner air. You know, feels good to help save the cash, planet.
Environmental defense. Get green. For more tips, go to getgreen.com.
Introducing the all-new Enclave. It's a minivan to the max, with features like remote control sliding rear doors, 150 cable channels, a full sky view roof, temperature-controlled cup holders, and the 6-point navigation system. It's the minivan for families on the go.